Hello everyone, and welcome back to Occult Perspectives. Hope you've all been doing extremely well. If you're new to this channel, my name is Tyler Smith. What I do on here is I cover different areas of occult research and esoteric research. Occult meaning, of course, that which is hidden or that which is concealed. That is the definition of the word occult. And I cover different topics such as Freemasonry, the Golden Dawn. We get into ceremonial magic. I cover Kabbalah, the Tree of Life, and the Klipothic Tree of Death, and a wide range of other subjects. So the topic of today's video, I think this will be an interesting one for many of you. I do want to do, one of my next videos is going to be the mosaic pavement or the checkerboard or tile floor of particularly a Masonic lodge, but it's also used by other mystery schools such as the Order of the Golden Dawn. I know that they typically have a checkerboard floor in the temple, and we'll talk about the symbolism of that. But for that video, I would like to compile some notes for that and dig into some of my resources, some of my books. So I want to be a little bit more prepared for that. We did a live stream recently too. It was the second live stream, and it actually went extraordinarily well. I had a really good time with that, and I think those of you who were a part of the live stream, you also enjoyed it. So I'm going to try to do one of those soon too. Hopefully it won't be too much longer. I also want to do a video soon where I dig in a little bit more into the Klipoth. I was told about a certain document. It's actually a grimoire, and it gets really deep into the aspects of the Ein, the outermost veil above the Tree of Life, and really kind of the beginnings of existence and how the Tree of Death was even formed. It's actually a fascinating document. If you can find it, I think it's called the Sitra Achra. I've usually seen it referred to as the Sitra Ara in most books, but this one has it spelled with a C instead. So far that's been a super interesting read. So those are kind of some things I'm looking forward to doing on this channel in the near future. Some videos and topics I want to cover. And then I also want to get around to posting some videos on my Patreon as well. That way there's some material on there, so that when you guys are interested in that, closer to the time, I reach like 1,000 subscribers, I'll go ahead and start promoting that a little bit more as well. For this particular video, this is going to be about the Illuminati. People talk about the Illuminati all the time. What is it? What isn't it? So we're going to get into that because I think there's a lot of false information out there about what the Illuminati is. So let's just go ahead and jump right into the subject of this video, the Illuminati. So really, when most people are referring to the Illuminati, they're talking about an order which existed, I believe it started in 1776 in Bavaria, which is now a part of Germany. So the Bavarian Illuminati was an actual organization kind of around the Enlightenment period. I think it fits into that timeline. So kind of what that school, that mystery school, was doing at that time was creating a group, a close-knit group, which would have protection from, the eyes of the church, because the church pretty much held a lot of authority at that time, and there was a lot of persecution going on. So scientists, who wanted to actually figure out more of the secrets of the universe and be able to conduct those experiments and do those things, they needed a safe haven where they could do that, and where they could study higher spiritual matters, which may not be, looked upon so well by the church. So the secret society or the secret order was formed called the Illuminati. And its structure is actually very similar to that of Freemasonry. And Freemasonry is actually an integral part of that original Illuminati organization. The rituals are actually public now. There's a book called The Secret School of Wisdom, and I believe it's actually written by and compiled by a 33rd degree Freemason. I think he's the archivist, if I remember right, of the southern jurisdiction, Scottish Rite. So that's kind of cool. I think it's him and like one other guy, but I know that they're Freemasons, the guys who put the book together. And it's all the actual documents of the Illuminati. So if you want to like study the structure and how the order was actually set up and what some of the documents were that were given to initiates along the way, that's a great book to go ahead and check out. If that's something you want me to dive into in more detail in a future video, I would have to reread the book. It's been a while since I've read it. I remember bits and pieces of it. But it's been a while. I've read a lot of material since then, so I'd have to go back through it. But one of the earlier classes or degrees in the Illuminati was called Minerval, and that was kind of like you were still considered an initiate. And what they would do is actually, the Illuminati at the time infiltrated Freemasonry. So there would be members who would, get into Masonic lodges, and they would basically observe people that they thought would serve their goals. Whatever. We don't really know what the specific goals, like what exactly they were doing, but we can look at their rituals, and we can look at some of the documents and kind of get a glimpse into quite a bit of what the Illuminati was really about at that time. But mostly just a place where information could be archived and gathered, and it was all, shared by this group and this organization. And they would take the people with the best skill sets from certain areas, and they would basically bring those people in. They would even do initiations in people's houses, and it would be the first 3 degrees of Freemasonry are actually a part of the Illuminati. So they would take these Masons and then like reinitiate them into the system. So you have Minerval, which is one of the earlier degrees in the order, and then you would go through the Blue Lodge degrees of Freemasonry, which are the first 3, and then they would have what I think it was called like Scotch Masonry. Maybe it was called Scottish Masonry, but that's the next class that, once an initiate or somebody who had gone through the Blue Lodge degrees in the Illuminati system, they would be asked to join, the next section, they would get to that next level, and then they would have to figure out like what their responsibilities were. They would basically be mentors or guardians in the Illuminati who would kind of like be counselors or overseers or watchers, if you will, of the lower initiates, and would observe them and see who they wanted to bring higher into the ranks and get more of these degrees. So it was a very tight-knit, very heavily watched group. They would watch their initiates who were in the higher degrees would, observe and basically like mentor these younger people to tailor them to get them ready for the higher degrees and being more involved in the organization and its governance and, basically whatever was going on behind the scenes, the actual things they were working on. They were working on science, and I'm sure alchemy and medicine and all of these other things, which kind of paved the way for like modern, the modern scientific field. But they understood more of the spiritual aspects of things back then, so it wasn't such a base science. They were really combining, spirituality and science together. And, the church was very fearful of that. So once again, that's why it was very underground at the time. It was really kept, hush-hush. And it wasn't until there was somebody on horseback, I think, that what happened, I don't remember who it was, but they got intercepted by someone. I don't think there was a war going on, but maybe there was. But somehow the documents, they got a hold of them, somebody else did, and then they were like, oh, there's this secret organization going on. And then shortly after that, the group disbanded, basically, officially. There was like an ordinance put in place, like the Illuminati shut down, no secret societies, blah, 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 which has happened a lot in history. But then, the group kind of went underground and it evolved later on. And so Freemasonry doesn't really officially have any ties to that anymore, but it does play an integral part. The Illuminati, as it existed in Bavaria, did play a very key role. It basically influenced Freemasonry a lot in a lot of ways, but they are not really one and the same, especially in today's world. Freemasonry is its own thing, and Grand Lodges now, govern each state has a Grand Lodge, so the governance is under the Grand Lodge today. And membership's like public, it's not actually a secret society, as in its existence was kept hidden, which is what the case was with the Bavarian Illuminati at the time. And then as you get into some of the higher degrees of the Illuminati, you read in that book, you start finding out that Hiram Abiff is really, synonymous with Jesus Christ. And so they put a lot of that Jesus, more than Gnostic, I would say it's very Gnostic Christianity. So it's like the Illuminati merged like some of the Christian information with the ancient mystery schools. So it's, even Freemasonry today, it's kind of like that. It's a combination between, King Solomon's temple and these old biblical stories, and kind of adding that to the old mystery schools as well. And it's like an adaptation, a modern adaptation of the mystery schools. It's not what they were in their ancient times. So even the Illuminati itself was it's still like a relatively modern mystery school, I would say. And I can't remember what the last couple degrees in the Illuminati are. They are in that book. It's like Philosophus or something like that, the last couple degrees. And it starts getting like way more philosophical in nature, as opposed to societal, as in the lower degrees, and like where your place is, and basically less operative and more speculative as you get into the higher degrees. It's dealing more with spiritual matters and talking about the transmission of these mysteries, which came down through Solomon, all the old Abrahamic figures in the Bible. And it talks about that bloodline, that lineage, that Christ lineage, and the transference of this, we call them magical currents, those who are in the occult field. So it was a magical current that was passed down through time, and it was adapted for that specific time period. And that's how it manifested, was as that mystery school, the Bavarian Illuminati. And in these philosophical degrees, it talks about like how they really don't know, they're trying to get at the mysteries of creation themselves. And I remember reading about how they talk about how little they really know in the grand scheme of things. So really, as you get into the higher degrees of the Illuminati, it's more skepticism, and it's more theory-based, trying to figure out, what is the actual hidden sciences behind the universe. So getting more into hermetics and things of that nature, and saying we don't really know the answers. So it's kind of funny, like some of these orders, you can get kind of caught up in just the hierarchy and the claptrap of everything, which is kind of an occult trap in and of itself. There is a lot of value to be gained from these different mystery schools, but at the same time, as an individual practitioner, you can kind of just study, these different mystery schools from the outside and just kind of take their wisdom and apply it to what you already know as an individual practitioner. And I think that can be of a lot more value than actually having to join some of these orders and stuff. Now, I'm not trying to dissuade you from joining like a magical order, because you'll be working with mentors and stuff who have like a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Experience already. So they can help you work through things that they've already worked through, and maybe help you from making, the same mistakes that they made. Although sometimes that's how we learn, though. So, and it's important to remember that Freemasonry as a mystery school, it's not like the same as ceremonial magic. So Freemasonry and like the Golden Dawn and the OTO and Thelema, which is like the spiritual belief, that permeates like the OTO and orders like that. Those things aren't really exactly the same. Yes, they are highly influenced by Freemasonry. Yes, there are many symbolic similarities, but they are not exactly the same thing. So that kind of gives you a little bit of background on what the actual historical Bavarian Illuminati is. Now today you see the term Illuminati just thrown around like all the time, like, oh, celebrities are part of the Illuminati, yada yada yada, etc. Like, really, it's all the really rich people. And in today's Illuminati, there is a book that's been released, and I've read it. It's called Illuminatium, I'm pretty sure. It's been a while since I've read that one too. But it talks about the actual Illuminati as it exists in the world today, and it talks about how it's on an island somewhere, and it's a really small group of people who have the most influence on the world, on economics, politics, all of these things, and they gather together, and they say, they basically admit in the book, they're like, look, we've already influenced humanity so far, and our plans are so set in stone that you're not going to be able to, stop it. And I don't see the Illuminati, I don't try to see things in like a dualistic manner, anymore. I used to be like really conspiracy theory about a lot of these things, but I think that's pretty unhealthy. I think we should look more into what it actually is. So what it is it's people who are of great service to humanity in such a way that their knowledge is of such value that they add to this school or this arcana of wisdom. It's an egregore, essentially. Any group that, Illuminati truly just means enlightened one. So it's a title. It's more a title than anything. So any group who claims to be an Illuminati, if that's truly what they are also going to be providing service to humanity in a way that's usually in such a way that it helps spread consciousness. It should be conscious-oriented. And it should be manifesting like good works in the world and actually producing like tangible, practical results, rather than just purely theory. But with that put aside, we're going to dig a little bit deeper into this as well. So it's people who are influencing the world and really trying to bring it into one cohesive unit. People who are major players behind the scenes. So who is the modern day Illuminati? I can't really tell you, and I'm not really here to, talk against it either. They're doing what they're doing. They've obviously, they've influenced society to a great degree. But let's look at the more esoteric meaning of Illuminati. So each of us as individuals, as Illuminati, those who are on, the conscious-oriented path of truly learning themselves, of know thyself. There have been different figures throughout time, Pythagoras, all of these people, you could collectively call them Illuminati, but basically enlightened souls. And when you start to see yourself as the source, as the creator, especially when you get into magic and things such as this, you realize how you yourself affect reality on such a high level or high degree. So one of the main themes of the Illuminati is self-governance, being able to, really have order in your existence and being able to bring your thoughts together in such a way that you can produce practical manifestations. And sometimes we even, as a catalyst for the evolution of humanity, a lot of the times we affect things magically on a macrocosmic scale. There are people who are, I would call them like individual or personal Illuminati. They may not be members of a so-called group, but they are doing the great work. They are spreading information and awareness to those who are looking for it. And in this way, we each become kings and queens of our own kingdom. essentially. That's really what it's all about, is self-governing, learning temperance, and learning how to... There's a couple parts of the book that I remember from the Bavarian Illuminati, and one of the rituals, they give the candidate like a small teaspoon of honey or something like that, but what it's really showing you, what the honey symbolizes, is it's the nectar of wisdom, it's the gnosis, but it's also being able to learn to practice temperance to such a degree that you are really satisfied with the smaller things in life. You've learned to control your animal passions to such a degree that you're not always hungering for things in the world. It's like you have tasted the sweet nectar of knowledge, and you don't really, your physical body, you are able to, through meditation and energetic work and things of that nature, be able to reach that state where you can manifest the reality that you want. So it's learning to be content with little. There's a lot to be said for that, and that's what a lot of the mystery schools, that's why they're so strict and they put such high standards on their initiates, is because when the initiate learns to master themselves, they become a better asset to the universe around them and to themselves. So you learn to master yourself, and you learn to have mastery, or, universal mastery over this plane of existence, through coming to know thyself. So really, that's truly what a true Illuminati is all about. There's also a lot of aspects to the Bavarian Illuminati and Illuminati groups in general for a place for there to be spiritual research in such a way that, it could even come to, there's another ritual within the Illuminati where the candidate, I do remember this pretty clearly, where the candidate is offered like a crown and basically all the power. They're saying, look, we're gonna give you, take this crown and you can become ruler, and you can basically make things the way you want them. But if the initiate fails the test, they actually take the crown and take it for themselves and wear it. But the real goal is to realize that you already have the crown. The crown chakra is symbolic of this, but we are each crowned, by divinity, if we but recognize it. This world oftentimes makes you want to forget that. It makes you want to forget your own true nature, or your own higher self, or your own divinity, essentially. So what the candidate does in the ritual is they throw the crown down on the ground and they basically crush it and say, I don't need this power. Like, I am powerful enough in and of myself, and I basically submit myself to Source in such a way that, I will be a conduit of Source to basically bring about true justice in such a way that removes any tyranny that would, any quote-unquote spiritual or governmental authorities who would seek to take away from your ability or your freedom to be a searcher of knowledge. So that's a big part of the Illuminati theme as well, is kind of this, it's a battle against oppression and tyranny and all those things that limit individual freedom. So that's why, the Illuminati has a lot of ties to America and like Masonry and all that stuff, is because it promotes individual freedom. That's why it's Freemason. You are not subservient to any slave masters or anything like that. You're becoming part of a universal brotherhood. And the Illuminati become part of this group to bring about gnosis, to bring about knowledge, and to bring about awareness. So you're crushing the crown because you're not about physical authority. You're not about controlling others. You're about controlling yourself, controlling your emotions and your passions. And in this way, you become an Illuminati. And if you study magic, you study Kabbalah, things of this nature, you start getting into deeper spiritual work, especially those who have gone through the whole Klipothic journey, especially that journey as well, they're going to be such masters of their own reality. At that point, they would be considered Illuminati, because the light comes from the darkness. When you work through these things, when you work through the tree of death and or the tree of life, you are learning deeper aspects of yourself, and you are becoming more powerful in such a way that you are your individual self is learning to have governance not over the rest of the world, but over yourself. And in that way, you basically create the reality that you want. So, yes, if you have deeper knowledge of these spiritual things, especially like the Kabbalah and how it works and how you can use that knowledge to change the world through changing yourself. You know, learning about that map of the universe and how it operates and how it functions and how it works, you already have more knowledge than most of the people, and you can, you know, quote unquote, manipulate the reality around you, and you can be stronger willed, and you can not fall prey to all the traps that, you know, society can sometimes bring. And in this way, it creates personal freedom and liberation, and that is what a true Illuminati is. So I think I'm at my destination, and I think I pretty much covered everything I wanted to in this video. I guess one last note is all the rappers and stuff, and you know, that they say are part of the Illuminati. Like, I think it's like Beyonce or Rihanna, different people like that. Yeah, they may be part of like a secret group. You know, Hollywood and all of those, you know, those people, they have, you know, I'm sure, you know, different schools of wisdom or secret societies or just clubs, essentially, where they all get together and they bring power, and, you know, they can have influence over people because they've gathered enough energy and power that they, you know, monetarily wise and all of these things, that they can influence society because they've got that influence. Does that make them true Illuminati though? Not really, not in my opinion. You know, any artist who's, you know, actually trying to bring conscious awareness to people, who has concepts or themes in their music which promotes consciousness, which furthers your understanding of reality. You know, there are artists who are very esoteric. They do touch on deep subjects. I'm even surprised sometimes, like bands like the Grateful Dead, how many esoteric themes they put, like they hide away in their videos and stuff. And even Bob Weir, he's been to Bohemian Grove, you know, and we all know probably at this point a little bit about Bohemian Grove. So exclusive clubs, all of these things. So you've got the Skull and Bones. There's different groups, but who's to say which one's the Illuminati and which one's not? We know of the Bavarian Illuminati. We know that the Illuminati kind of went underground for a while, and that the Knights Templar was formed later on, and now today we have modern Freemasonry. So these are all offshoots from these older secret societies, and not necessarily the same thing. So I think that pretty much wraps it up, everyone. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please be sure to subscribe, give it a like, and ring the notification bell for future videos. So peace and blessings wherever you happen to be today. So have a great one.